So with that said, just a couple of quick things about us, but I'm going to actually zip through this. It's actually technically, we need to update this to 15 years. We just turned 15 years. I cannot believe it has been 15 years already. We're huge advocates of the industry. This is our industry. We're not in the marketing industry. We're in the security industry, and really, really appreciate all of the relationships that we built over the years, all of our customers, all of our strategic partners, etc. And in terms of what we do, we're a marketing agency. I'm not going to spend much time on this. We do serve the entire channel, not just the dealer, integrator, alarm company, uh, guard company, fire alarm company, but we also work with vendors as well. If we don't know each other, I'd love to keep this conversation going next week at ISC West. If we're not connected on LinkedIn, please scan the QR code. I'd love to keep this conversation going. I've been very blessed to speak at many of our industry's biggest events. But once again, today's not about me. Good news, by the way, for those of you that have not met Isabel in person, she's going to be with us along with, I think there are 9 or 10 of us that will be at ISC West next week. So I'd love for you to stop by our booth. If you'd like to schedule some time with me to discuss marketing, whether we work together or not, you're welcome to schedule a time here with this QR code. I'm going to keep moving forward. I want to spend just a moment or two about this. So really pumped about this. So this is our second annual Kingpins and Cocktails event this next week on Wednesday from 5:30 to 8:30. For those of you that were present with us last year, we were packed in there like sardines. And a big thanks to that of our co-hosts, which is the Seymour Group, WBFA, and the California Alarm Association. The 4 of us have been working really, really hard. And I double checked this morning. We're almost at 500 RSVP. So what I will ask is if you have not RSVP'd, please scan this QR code. And I'm not checking my email during this, but I expect to see a few more RSVPs during that of today's webinar. So RSVP, I expect to have well over 1,000 RSVPs when it's all said and done. We've got a much bigger venue. This is actually a little sneak peek into the venue. We've got the entire, I think it's called, the front yard, which is like their restaurant slash bar. And it's hard to see this, but we also have their upstairs, which goes all the way around as well. So really looking forward to spending some time together next Wednesday. And I'd be remiss. I want to give a really quick big thanks to that of our sponsors for the event. Our premier sponsor is Kita, and our diamond sponsor, Flex Security, is our platinum sponsor. Emergency 24 is our silver, and then our bronze are Alarm Max, Bundy Group, Highland Tech, AI, and then Telguard. So a big thank you to our co-host, a big thanks to that of each of our sponsors, and most importantly, a big thanks to each and every single one of you that will be in attendance, where we're talking some shop networking and things in that regard, and building new relationships together at Kingpins and Cocktails. Now, the other quick thing about next week, I'd mentioned that there will be 8 or 9 of us. If you would like to schedule a dedicated time to speak with myself or one of the other members of our team, scan this QR code, but make sure you have our booth. We'd love to spend some time together in person. We're going to be all the way in the left as you walk into the show floor, all the way in the left. And we're literally on the first aisle, and we're the second booth from the front. So look forward to seeing you next week at ISC West. The other thing is on Wednesday and Thursday, I'll be leading 2 sessions. So these will not be about marketing. These will be about various mega trends within that of our industry. Awesome. Thank you, James. I look forward to seeing you there. And thank you, Jerry, a little earlier once again. Yeah, super pumped. And James, I look forward to you getting to meet some of the members of the team that you get to interact and engage with on Zoom all the time. But we're going to be together. So the irony in the situation is we have to go out of state to get together. But anyhow, sorry, I'm getting off into a tangent. So if you've got the All Access Pass, I'd love for you to participate in that of our sessions. As much as I love doing these webinars, I really enjoy doing them live in person because I get to, the feedback that I have right now is this camera that I'm pointing at and chat and things in that regard. But I love to actually speak live in person. So really blessed to be speaking with all of my co-panelists, talking about protecting critical infrastructure. But by the way, with we're going to be discussing lessons from global threats because 2 of our panelists are from actually out of the country. And then, of course, my good friend, the John Nemirovsky, Nemo, is really prominently, I'm not going to get too far into the weeds here, but really excited about this session. And then also the 90-day roadmap to recurring revenue from that of the remote guarding playbook. Really pumped about this one as well. In both of the prep sessions that we've had with these groups, like This is going to be a lot of fun, a lot of actionable insights, and I'd love to see each and every single one of you there at our sessions as well. That's going to be Wednesday the 25th and Thursday the 26th at 1 o'clock on Casanova and Venetian. All right. Uh, the other thing really quickly is you can scan the QR code to read the latest edition of the Marketing Matters column, which is going to be your biggest competitor. It's not ADT. So there's a lot of great information about this. I look forward to hearing some of your feedback about this when we're together next week as well at ISC West. And then just really quickly, in terms of our sponsors for our webinar series, I cannot thank our good friends at Recognize and NAPCO enough. I will ask you, I'm not asking each and every single one of you that are watching this live or on demand to do business with us or to this. Or what I will ask you is for you to give thanks to that of our friends at Recognize and NAPCO. And if you're at ISC West next week and you stop by their booths, please thank them for sponsoring that of our webinar series. If you're not familiar with Recognize, they are all about outdoor. It's AI based. It's more of an ecosystem. And by the way, Recognize just is now part of a bigger conglomerate, which is part of the Vosker family. And there's a lot of new things that are coming about. So I'd love for you to spend some time with them. But in terms of like visual verification that's AI based, that's ruggedized, things in that regard. They've got an entire platform for you. And I know most of us are involved in video surveillance, if not 100% of us are. So definitely someone for you to have, like, this is a tool in your tool belt for certain applications. It makes perfect sense. With NAPCO, I'm not going to spend too much time on NAPCO because, look, I think all of us are familiar with NAPCO. Once again, their booth number is 12031. You can literally almost run your entire security or fire and life safety business on NAPCO. They've been around since 1969. Super, super appreciative of the continued relationship with NAPCO. Please, once again, let our good friends at their booth know that you really appreciate them sponsoring that of our webinars. Okay, so let's get into today's main content. So there is a sobering reality. It's like right now, there's someone, could be a mile, 2, 3, 4, 5 from that of your office, and they're searching for a company like yours. But what happened is they just called your competitor. And why? Because we're invisible to them. There is a huge opportunity within search. And if you take into consideration all of search, and this could be across Google, this could be against the answer engines like the ChatGPTs of the world, the like Bing, things in this regard. 46%, so nearly 1 in 2 of all Google searches, in fact, they have local intent. Perhaps they're looking for a restaurant, perhaps they're looking for an attorney nearby, or perhaps they're looking for a fire, life safety, or security company, i.e. us. And here's the key is the top 3 results within that search engine results page. They're generating most of the actual engagement, most of the clicks. And the key here is how do we get within that coveted space, the top of the search engine results page? And by the way, just over 3 out of 4 users on their mobile device that are doing a search, it actually results in an offline purchase. For us, that entails them doing business with someone. I really appreciate each of you taking time once again out of your day for today. What we're discussing today is critical. It's red alert. It is, and keep in mind, things are moving so fast, right? Those of you that I have one-on-one discussions with, you know what I'm talking about. Things are moving at a mile a second. AI is changing everything. What happened 6 years ago is changing everything. Social's changing everything. This device here, I know it's hard to see me, but this device, I've got my mobile device, it's changed everything. Remember, we've got the attention span that's less than that of a goldfish. But here's the thing. Groups like ourselves that rank at the top, they capture the majority of buyers, of end users that are looking to do business with someone like ourselves. Because remember, when someone is doing a search, we know that they need what we offer at this moment geographically within the areas that we service. And that is the key and super, super vital. And I'll tell you what, I know I just touched on this, but the game, it's changed. I call this like Google's AI revolution. It's here, and it's been here for quite some time, and it's not going away, and remember, the only constant in marketing, the only constant in search is change. And we've got to make sure, and the good news is we are staying as best as we can up to date with things, but things are evolving very, very quickly. Look, AI powered summaries, now they're actually appeared, and not across every single search, but for a lion's share or a number of searches, they're appearing above that of the traditional results, including that of ads. Search behavior, it's shifting from one or two or three words to more of a conversational query. And what I mean by that is adding 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 keywords. It's asking an actual question and not just one or two keywords. The companies, remember, that adopt this now are going to have a significant advantage over the years to come. So I want to just I'd like for each of you to quickly get your phones out. I have 3 quick questions for you. And I really would like for everyone to answer these questions honestly. So if you want, and by the way, if for those of you that have not been in these sessions before, I do not know the answers to anyone's questions. This is all anonymous. And the first question, so I want you to answer this honestly and then see as to how things work. How are things comparing versus that of your competitors? So it's like when someone Googles your service in your city, where does your company appear? Is it on page 2 or behind? Is it top 3 results? Is it somewhere on page 1? Honestly, you've never checked or have checked once years ago. So we'll leave this up here just for another minute. But if you can say, once again, we'll leave this up just for another 5 or 10 seconds here. So somewhere on page 1, I can find us. That's good. I checked once years ago. Okay, well, to the individual or individuals that have shared that, like, this is something I'm glad you're here today because that's the whole point. And to those of us that are page 2 or beyond, this is if you're not on page 1, you're invisible. So I'm going to move on to the next question really quickly. So how many Google reviews does your business currently have? Is it 50 plus? We're rock stars. Is it 20 to 49? We're getting there. Is it 10 to 19? We're just getting started, or is it under 10? And we need some help. By the way, we're going to touch on all these things here today. So we'll leave this up just for another 5 seconds or so. So, over half of us is under 10 reviews and we need some help. So the good news, even if we're only doing 1 or 2 or 3, like 1 to 5 new installs per week, per month, we can still capture at least half of those into reviews. And I'll talk with you. I have a little bit of we'll talk about that here shortly. Okay, so last question really quickly. So how many qualified leads do you get from your website per month? And I appreciate, once again, everyone answering this honestly. So if we can answer this really quickly, and then once again, I want you to see as to how you're comparing with that of your peers. And keep in mind, I'm going to take a look at who is on with us today. Okay, so I don't know everyone, but for those of you that I don't know, appreciate you spending some time with us today. And for those of you that I do know, I see individuals from all over the country, and actually a couple of individuals from out of the country as well. So thank you. Okay, perfect. So yeah, half of us are basically 1 to 4, barely anything. The good news is what we're discussing today will be able to get us out of this realm right here of the 1 to 4. Okay, so let me go back to our session and I will continue moving forward. Okay, so in terms of what we're going to fix today, we're going to talk about the invisible company problem and why it's costing us more than you think. Now, by the way, remember, those of us that just answered 1 to 4, keep in mind, there are a lot more, even the smallest of small, call it service areas are producing more leads than that on a monthly basis. And what does that mean? Not only are we losing, but we're losing those to that of our competition. So this is why it's our duty. It's critical for us to be about working this. We're going to talk about the local SEO Trinity, the 3 pillars that are driving 3/4 of that of the visibility. We'll talk about the golden keywords. We'll talk about AI proofing our content before Google leaves us behind, and then the 5-day sprint. And by the way, we for those that stick around to the end, which will be all of us or most of us, we'll have a QR code so that we have a resource guide that's going to give you literally the step-by-step blueprint as to a lot more depth as to what we're going into today. It's going to be literally the step-by-step blueprint and checklist and things in that regard. Okay, so let's talk about invisible company syndrome. Okay, so let's do a test. And I'm not going to ask anyone to add in the chat, and obviously you're welcome to do so. But I want you to really put some thought around this. Like, are we invisible online? And here's a 5-point reality check. So, and so I want you individually to know, okay, is it 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? We can't find our company in the first 3 Google results when we type in like one of the primary things that we do, and then the one of the primary cities that we service. Or your Google business profile has fewer than 10 reviews. I know that that's going to be checked for a number of us because I think if my memory serves me correct, like half of us where that was the case. Or our website takes more than 3 seconds to load. That's really, really important, especially in that of mobile. Or you haven't updated your website in the last 6+ months. That's another no-no. Or you don't know what keywords your customers actually search. Keep in mind, remember, because of data and analytics, whether it's Google Analytics, Google Search Console, many other tools. And by the way, Google Analytics and Google Search Console, we're not going to talk too much in depth about those today, but those are free tools. Those are things that you've got to have access to, because they give you a clear 360-degree view in terms of what are all of the keywords that you're showing up for within Google, and what is the history in terms of rankings for them and things in that regard. So by the way, if you check 2 or more of those, you're missing most potential customers who search for you right now online. So let's see who's winning in your market, right? So I know we're not going to have a ton of time to be going offline or online right now with some of these things, but I want you to take some snapshots of this, and I want you to just spend, even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes, I'm going to give you a little bit of homework here towards the end, but it's like, do some searches like for security system installation and city and some of the primary searches. And I'm going to give you a list, by the way, in a few minutes of keywords. You're going to want to take a snapshot of that as well. Some of the primary keywords that we want to be focused on. It's like, who owns the map pack? Like, who are the top 3? Who is in that map section? And remember, that's powered by your Google business profile, which used to be called Google My Business, which used to be called Google Places, and many other things as well over the years. Which companies show up in the AI summaries? What do the top companies have in common? And by the way, there are tools to help you identify this. But even manually, you can take into consideration these things like, what are the primary categories? How many reviews do they have? What are the hours of operations? Do they respond to their reviews? Things in this regard. There's many other things in terms of what are the services they provide? How many services? Is there description to the services? A lot of these kinds of things. You want to find out patterns. Remember, it's all about patterns, pattern recognition. What do your competitors have, especially the ones that are showing up at the top that you're not doing? Because remember, when it comes to your Google business profile, these are all things that you do not need professional web designers, professional developers. You don't need that. These are things that can be done yourself. Okay, so let's talk about what invisibility really costs out of our security companies. Number one is it's misleads, because these are prospects that we'll never see. Number one. Number two, price competition. If we don't have that digital authority, you may be competing based on price alone. Now, obviously, there's a lot of offline if we've been involved in the, in our local markets for, perhaps multi-generations, things in that regard in our brands. But I'll tell you what, as we have prominence digitally, it really helps to increase that of our perception by that of prospects. Not just residential, but we lose that in commercial opportunities. I would imagine many of us here, especially those that I know, commercial is big. Let's see here. I'm not going to reference you by name, but I like your concept and presentation. Well, that's very kind of you. I won't reference you by name, and appreciate that kind feedback. Recruitment challenges, because, and as I have one-on-one discussions with groups that we work with and with strategic partners and things in that regard, remember, we're always recruiting, not just for new customers, we're recruiting for new members of our team. And by the way, remember, in many cases, our best prospect is who is our existing customer. And with that said, we want to make sure that we are always recruiting our existing customers to continue to layer services, because the more that we layer services, the lower the attrition. And that's done via marketing, and that's done via sales. Now, when an end user can't find you online and they don't know, like, and trust you, they make the false assumption that you're small, you're outdated, or you're not trustworthy. And that's a no-no. Now, here's 4 invisible traps as to why security companies stay invisible. Well, look, I know that most of us generate a lot of our business through word of mouth referrals. I get it. That is part of the basis of who it is that we are. But the problem is what? It's peaks and valleys. The referral is, look, even referrals may Google us. They may look online when someone gets referred. And what we want to do is we want to control that narrative. Trap number 2 is it's too technical. The reality is some of the basic things. Now, mind you, look, there are some technical things that are way over my head. The good news is that I joke with the team, but I'm being very dead serious about this. I don't ever want to be the smartest one in the room because I'm in the wrong room. I'm very blessed to have many bright young minds and talented professionals that are experts at what they do. And, some of our experts are like technical individuals, like from the development and developer perspective. And yes, there's some things that require some of those, but there's a lot of things, especially the things that I was talking about with the Google Business Profile. And here's the big one. And I got to tell you, sometimes I've got the analysis paralysis or I put things off, but like, let's do it later. And look, remember, the best time to plant a tree is 10 years ago. The second best day is what? Today. Let's do it later. The reality is every day you wait, your competitors are pulling further and further ahead. Or our website's good enough trap. The reality is a website without SEO is like a billboard in that of the desert. Now, let's talk about the transformation of visibility. So before, minimal organic leads. I'm not going to go back to the questions, the Slido questions, but I know a number of us unfortunately are not generating a high volume of leads. We're competing potentially only on price, and we're not very well known, liked, and trusted in that of our market. But after we get optimized, we have a consistent, that's the key, consistent lead flow. Customers are choosing us because based on our expertise and their perception that we are the liaison, the go-to group within our market, and we're recognized as that of that local authority. Now, the good news is within the next 60 to 90 days, with consistent effort, we can really put ourselves in that position. Now, let's talk about the SEO local Trinity here. So there's three pillars here: Google Business Profile, reviews, and citations. Now, there are a number of things that go on the website as well, and we're going to discuss some of those things as well. But when we master this, it's going to really put us in that of a good position. Okay, so let's talk about that of the Google Business Profile. So you want to, at the very least, you want to have these things. Like, I got to tell you, please take snapshots of this. These things are critical, and this is literally foundational things that have to be done. There's going to be more than this. And remember, the checklist that I'll provide you will provide you with a lot more detail and the step-by-step. But you want to make sure that you've got the proper primary. I'm going to actually show you some examples of these in just a moment. And at the very least, you want to add 3 to 4 secondary. Now, mind you, most of us are going to be offering at least 6 to 10 things. And Google will allow us to have the primary plus an additional 9 for a total of 10 categories. You want to be very particular about and mindful about your primary, though. You want to make sure you fill in your description. So it can be up to 750 characters, including spaces. You want to use target keywords naturally. Don't stuff. In other words, don't just add keywords because we think we're going to be showing up for Google. The description is not critically, it is very important because users that find it, there are signals, but it's not high in the priority list in terms of the algorithm for Google in terms of the weight that the description, but it is important. Services, make sure that once again, list every single service that you do, add a description to that of it as well. You want to make sure on a monthly basis, this is really important, photos. On a monthly basis, at the very least, even if it's 2 or 3 or 4, ideally at least 5 new photos per month. And this could be things like real installations, like the before and after photos. It could be members of your team. It could be vehicles. It could be your facility. It could be selfies with your customers. It could be happy birthday to members of your team. Like, remember, this is part of that social. Now, mind you, I'm very blessed to have many young, talented graphic designers here in the team. But in your Google Business Profile, we want to make sure that we're using real images, not necessarily like Photoshopped or AI-based images. Google knows what's Photoshopped, what's AI. I want real. Remember, raw is real. And I know that this takes time, and there are ways to schedule this. You can literally take pictures, and then I would not dump them all at one time. What we have seen is doing this over time and things in that regard. And then the Google page posts. So ideally on a weekly basis, you want to be putting that of a Google page post. And this is like, look at it as being like a mini blog. And these should be on projects, on tips, promotions. It could be based on the services that you do, things in this regard. These are all of these things, remember, together are force multipliers. You want to be working on this together because a complete active profile, it helps to significantly outperform incomplete ones, not just in visibility, meaning when you're showing up, but also within engagement and clicks because we want individuals to pick up the phone and call. We want individuals to click through to your website. We want individuals to engage and interact with you. Now, mind you, remember, there are more things than this. Obviously, soliciting reviews is really, really important as well. Now, let's do a quick little deep dive on that of the categories themselves. So, the primary options are going to be, and look, I know uh, like security system installer, there's also the security system supplier. And I know perhaps all of us may think, well, wait a minute, that's describing a that of a like a distributor in our industry. Well, keep in mind, like I know we're not talking about LSA, the local service ads, but for those of us that are strictly commercial, in order to get leads from Google for local service ads, you have to go under the primary category of home security, which makes no sense to any of us in the industry, but that's just the way Google is. So my point being here is these are examples, like I would add the fifth of security system supplier as well, depending upon what we do. But those of us that are mostly fire want to take this into consideration. And keep in mind, these are a little over a half dozen groups. You're going to want to go through and find all the eligible subcategories and make sure we have that added appropriately. Uh, One pro tip is, remember a couple of minutes ago I'd mentioned in your market you want to do a little bit of due diligence. And for those of us that have, by the way, for those of us that have multiple locations, and I know at least a couple of us on here have multiple locations, like 2 to 10 locations. You're going to want to do this for each of your locations. And we want to see and this is going to be for some of the primary keywords and phrases. We want to, based on the things that we do, who are the 3 that are showing up? And then let's analyze them and let's just see what are some of the patterns. Perhaps they have a lot of reviews. Their profile is completely filled out. We can see what their primary and secondary categories are, things in that regard. At the very least, we want to make sure that we're adding those things because those things literally take just minutes. Okay, so this individual asked to host a panel, so I'm not going to reference you by name. So will we be discussing strategies that help with figuring out how to get past or stand out from specifically the sponsored results in Google? Okay, so if I'm understanding your question correctly, so keep in mind in Google, when I say the Google SERP, I'm referring to the Google Search Engine Results page. Some searches are going to most searches will have ads on them. Some of them, the ones that have ads, they will all have Google pay-per-click, and that is going to be PPC. And those are, you bid for a phrase, a keyword phrase, word phrase. You can control a lot of, I'm not going to get too much in the details here, but you're being charged per click. You control which keywords and phrases that you want to show up for and what your maximum bid is, what your text-based ad is, things in this regard. And when someone either calls you, because if you have call enabled on there, or if someone clicks, you're charged a cost per click. Those are typically going to be fixed at the top. Now, when the LSA, which is the local service ads, those are going to be above the PPC. Now, in that regard, we select our primary service area, we select what our budget is, and which subcategories within the home security. By the way, even fire is part of home security, just FYI. So keep in mind, we select which. Now, those are going to show up at the top. PPC is going to be below that. In some cases, we have AI overview. We don't have ads. We have just AI overview. It just, remember, it depends on how Google interprets every single search. So what I will say is, if I'm understanding your question correctly, in terms of getting past, like with the organic things that we're talking about, and I'm talking about in the maps, people also ask, let me just show really quickly. Let me just do a quick search. Okay, so let's just say, let me think here just for a sec here. Home security company near me. By the way, I'm using a tool called Whisperflow because I am not the quickest with typing. So I am based in Irwindale, our office is in Irwindale, which is in Los Angeles. So just as a reminder, this is, once again, remember I'd mentioned, team, an example of most searches are local intent. With the search that I just did, this is a local intent search. So this is the LSA local service ads. Once again, when I call or I fill out a form, there is a cost per lead that these 2 companies this is the PPC. So if I click on any of these, which I'm not, that's going to be the case. Now, the question is, we'll be discussing strategies, how to get past so in terms of standing out from these, number one, we have to be present. Like we have to be present in here. Being that once again, I'm in the San Gabriel Valley, which is in the east of Los Angeles. These are three groups that are here in the area. And the key here is we want to make sure that we are present. So this is where, let's just say if I were a security company here in this area, I would take into consideration these three groups. What do I have to do to outcompete these three groups? And by the way, when we take a look here, these are the organic results. So Yelp is, of course, is going to be tough in some cases to go past Yelp. And why? Because Yelp has a very high page domain authority, a lot of links that are going to it, and it's like directory listings and things in that regard. This people also ask the PAA. So these are questions that Google is interpreting within a millisecond. When someone does this search, people also are asking, how much does a security system typically cost? Now, ironically, some of these things I'm talking about, I actually have slides for this in a few minutes, but I think I think this actually would be really helpful for everyone to really dissect the SERP, the search engine results page, and to talk about this. Now, by the way, I'm not saying for you to do this to all of these, but you may want to consider answering these questions in your blogs, in your FAQs on your website, because what this does is this is a signal not just to Google, because remember, we don't just do things for Google. Obviously, Google's really important. We want to do things for actually humans, for real individuals as well. We want to have them multi-purpose, but these are what Google interprets that others are asking. The way that you get in this area, by the way, is answering these questions and answering them very, very thoroughly in terms of like on blogs or FAQs on your website. Because if I were to go here, you'll see here, this is coming from a company by the name of Eufy. I'm not familiar with them and things in that regard. And then this is organic result number one, or organic result number two, three, and then sponsored results. And then we go to page 2. So going back here, I'd mentioned this earlier, I would take into consideration, 4.8, 4.1, and 5.0, 56, 42, and 5. So what I would do is I would once again, and the reference guide that I'm going to provide you will provide you with all the actionable steps. And we also have a step-by-step for Google Business Profile that's really, really detailed. If you would like that, reach out to Isabella or myself, and we can get that to you as well. But have your things fully filled out. Make sure that we're adding images, things in that regard. So I'm going to keep moving forward. I know I was going to reference you by name. I may have not answered your question directly, but if you have a specific follow-up question, feel free to send it to me directly in the host and panelist. Oh, awesome. Good. I'm glad I did. All right, let's go back here and get back on track. Okay. So I think that we discussed this already. Yes, that's right. We are here, and I'm going to keep going forward. Okay. So the reason why reviews are critical ranking factor is we want to make sure at the very minimum, ironically, if we took a look at the screen where we just were, 2 of the 3 were over 40, if my memory serves me correct. I think one was 5, and then the other 2, I think 40, and then one was 50 or greater. So we want to make sure that we're ironically getting towards 40. Now, by the way, I don't know if I have slides. No, I do have slides to this. So let me keep going forward with this. I was going to get off and do a tangent. We want to make sure that we have reviews that are not just from 6 months ago. Like, let's say once we get to 40, oh, we can set it and forget it. No, that's not the case. We want to get ourselves to 40 and then make sure that we continually add reviews on an ongoing basis. Ideally, ideally, something is better than nothing, but ideally, we have keywords and phrases that mention the services that we do, the things that we want to be showing up for Google within that of the reviews as well as the responses. Now, remember, the responses we have direct control over, and we're really quickly, what I mean by that is let's do this as an example. So when we take a look at these reviews, what we want to do is, okay, we want to make sure with that of these reviews. Okay, sorry, one sec here. That's right. I knew it was right in front of me. So with these reviews, ideally, you want to make sure that we are engaging with them and we want to respond to them. Now, obviously, this is not our security company, so I'm not able to respond to this, but you want to respond to everyone. Why? Because number one, people like the fact that you're responding and engaged, but do it in an authentic way. Do it in a way that's like real and genuine. And also because this is also showing that you're like a real human, like a real company that's based on individuals. So these things are important. So ideally, you want to make sure, look, alarm security cameras, that's a good thing, right? So my point with that is keep those things in mind. So this is where when you're with an existing customer or prospect and they're leaving you a review, you want to coach them a little bit on that. Okay. I'm going to be really quick about this in terms of getting reviews consistently. By the way, the best way to do this is when you're physically together with someone. Do not leave until they finalize out of the review. And I'm not going to go back to that page, but you can get a link so that someone, what we do with the groups that we work with is we develop a QR code on a business card, and all of their technicians will show that QR code every time that they're with a happy customer. And I emphasize happy. We don't want a not happy customer leaving a not so good review. So we want to control that narrative. So we make it really easy. But the thing here, the SAR method is, deliver exceptional service. Like, this is a given, obviously. And I know everyone that's here, we do great work, and we're impeccable with that of our service. And we want to make sure that we're requesting it at the peak happiness, like right after a successful install, like when you're there together with them. And if you have to, you can remind them via text message or email with a direct link, but ideally do it when you're together. And here's an actual script. I'm going to move forward because I think we're a little behind schedule, but and I want to make sure I get the QR code. I want to make sure I'm respectful of everyone's time. I will say this in life, not just with what we're talking about, consistency in life, it's everything. It's obviously critically important with what we're talking about. When we talk about your NAP consistency check, we're talking about name, address, and phone number. It has to be consistent. What is on the footer of your website, the name that is positioned on that of your Google business profile, your Yext, your Yelp, your Maps Quest, all of your, your Facebook, like all of your listings, they all have to be consistent with an identical phone number, business name, address, etc. We want to make sure that we have citations, and these are basically anchors or references to Google, as an example, that's showcasing that, in fact, you are indeed a legitimate business. I'm not going to read this list, but you can read this faster than I can. But if you have inconsistent NAP, name, address, phone number, it can hurt that of our rankings. It can confuse our customers, and it sure as heck is going to confuse Google, which is going to negatively impact that of our visibility. So there's 3 things that you can do right now. These are things that you can do during this webinar and today. So like tonight, like right now, make sure that you are checking your status. And then tonight, across just a few minutes, add 3 missing service categories, upload 5 recent photos, and write up to a 750 character description. Tomorrow, you can text your last 5 happy customers and ask them for reviews. And make sure that you have a consistent NAP on that of your Yelp and BBB. By the way, when you do this within the next couple 2 to 4 weeks, you'll start to see some positive. And I'm not saying you're going to do just that and all of a sudden you're going to shoot to the stars, but you'll see some positive results as a result of doing that. So there's 3 types of security searches. So there's the high intent, the research, and information. In terms of high intent, and by the way, we want to focus on 1 and 2. And I'm not saying that 3 is bad. I definitely am not saying that. But if we're just getting started with this, we want to focus on the high intent keywords. Some examples of this that are going to be by now are going to be like alarm company near me, fire alarm company near me. And by the way, I'm emphasizing company near me because if we just do a search for, let's just say access control, it's going to be perceived as informational. There will be blogs about what is access control. We do not know the intent. But if we look for an access control installer in and insert your city, that's different. That's someone that's looking for an access control company like yours. They just don't know you yet. And that's the key. We want to make sure that we're showing up at the top of the results for that. In terms of some buying soon research, a couple of examples are like best home security system in 2026 or, commercial access control pricing. And there's some examples of the information is, do I need a fire alarm? This is someone that's wanting to understand the code. It could be like a property manager or a building owner or what have you. Now, here is a template. And once again, I want you to start taking some snapshots of this. We are recording this. We will send the replay after today's session so that you can pause and, distill some notes and things in that regard, but feel free to take some snapshots of this. So keyword template is going to be like what you do, your location, and then a modifier. So like an example of this would be commercial fire alarm inspection Houston, in Houston, Texas, or Houston commercial fire alarm inspection companies, as an example. I'm not going to read through all these, but you can see through all this. And here's the thing. When we say long tail, what I mean by that is 5, 6, 7, 8+ words. Now, there is less search for that, but the good news is less competition for these keywords and phrases. And there's in fact, a higher conversion rate. Now, here is something, and I don't think I'm going to have time to go live on Google right now. But let me, you know what, let me just do this really quick just to show you, because I want to make sure this is actually important. You don't need any fancy tools to do this, but the Google autocomplete. So like, let's say, for example, let's go, now I'm going to type, let's say home alarm. Actually, let me go to Google. Okay. So home alarm. And if you see here, when I say autocomplete, if you want to take a snapshot of this, obviously for us, we're not interested in a clock but like all these others, I mean, let's do this. Systems. Now you're seeing all of the other examples of other long tail phrases. So I would challenge you, spend 5-10 minutes, do some of the searches, start getting into the mindset. Now, by the way, this is what Google is suggesting because this is what others search for. These are some keys and clues. Remember, it is all about recognizing patterns, knowing these basics, these fundamentals, focusing on certain key things and proceeding accordingly. So let me continue. Okay, I think it went back. The other thing, and I'm not going to go back here, but remember the people also ask. Those are important. So like for the key searches, what are the people also ask questions? These are things that you should be writing blogs about because these are also things that Google is indicating that's the case. What are some of the related searches? So if you go, and I'm not going to do this, but if you go all the way to the bottom of the page, Google is going to indicate what are some of the other related searches. And then the other thing is when you're logged into your Google business profile. So you want to make sure that if you have not claimed your Google business profile, that's step one. When you go into the analytics, you can see as to what are the insights. And I'm not going to go through all the details. There's a tremendous amount of insights. But one of them is what are the actual searches that you're showing up for and where are you positioned and things in that regard. So you can see all of those things. So these are all, keep in mind, searches are happening right now in your market, in each of our markets. And here's a quick little 3-step spy method. I'm going to pick up the pace here. So once again, do a search. Take a look at the organic result, not the ad, but the organic result. Take a look at what is their page title. And actually, I am going to show you what I mean by this. So let's do, okay, so page title, meta description, H1. Okay. So actually, just so that everyone knows what we're talking about here. So let's say California. Actually, before I do this, so this is the page title. Remember, in my deck, it says blue. This is the meta description. And then when you click here, this is realistically going to be the H1, the headline 1 tag. And not to get, I don't want to use fancy words here, but this is like, once again, this is also the title tag, the H1. And then I talked about the meta description. It's taken into consideration. What are they saying? What are the words and phrases that are showing up in here? Now, as I mentioned, I am based where I'm based in Irwindale. And if you look at, I mean, like, look, you don't have to be a search engine optimization strategist, guru, expert, etc. This is the speedway that's here in our city. They're focused, they're making it very evident. Even remember, I think I did home alarm company near me, I think, right? Google knows that I'm in Irwindale. So what is it doing? It's interpreting that this ADT authorized dealer. And where I'm going with this is these are things that we can do ourselves. Like we have strategies that we work with that of our groups, and we have local geographic based location pages that are based in the primary services within that of the service area. So keep that in mind. Let me keep moving forward here. By the way, I hope this is helpful, and you don't have to engage in the chat because I know a lot of you, when we're together in person, I really appreciate all your feedback, but I'm trying to be as specific and provide some actionable insights here. All right, James, you're very kind. I'm not going to, there's a few others that have sent me some notes directly. You all are too kind. Thank you. I look, by the way, when we're together next week, come see me because drinks are on me, especially Wednesday night, by the way. Okay, so the 7 power positions for maximum impact. Take a snapshot of this, by the way, team. This is really important. Wow, James, you're a good man, my friend. Thank you. So on your website, and I just mentioned this a couple of minutes ago, your page title is most important. The URL structure. So this is in marketing speak, it's called the slug. But in other words, it's like XYZ security company / home dash security dash company as an example. That's what your URL structure, the H1 heading, the first paragraph, meaning what's the copy? Because remember, we want to hook the audience in that. We want to talk about the challenge that we're solving and then get into what it is that we're doing. And then the image alt text. So this is how you name the images on your page. And there is a tag / a field when you upload this. Like the individuals that do websites themselves, you know what I'm talking about. But for your web designers, there's something called an alt image text. And this is a signal to that of Google as to what the image is all about. On your business profile, like your business description and the service listings as well. Now, remember, and this is just keep this in mind. If it sounds weird when you read it, Google's not going to like it either. And you don't want to do that. You want to be natural. Remember, methodical and steady marketing wins the race. Do things, whereas Google's algorithm changes all the time. If you're doing the right thing, putting forth the best, I mean, I will say this. If you think about it, Google makes the lion's share of its revenue from its ads. How does it get its users to keep coming back and to keep clicking and engaging? Because users find the results useful. What does that mean for us? And I just want you to look at this, like think about it at a high level. If we position ourselves and if we are the prominent local security company in our market, and by the way, I know we have some groups that are on the vendor side here, and we're on a nationwide basis. The same thing holds true for us, but just on a nationwide scale. If we are doing this, we position and we're doing the right things. We are really making sure that we're writing things for human. We are carefully have pages for each of the things that we do, things in that regard. We put ourselves in the right. Remember, and I'm going to say this one last time: methodical and steady marketing wins the race. I'm not going to read through all these. Take a snapshot of this. These are some top 20 keyword patterns for security companies. So I'm going to leave this up for 3, 2, 1. And by the way, I know we don't have time for anything. Feel free next week when we're together, grab a few minutes with me or schedule a time. We can discuss these things more in detail. But here's, look, I touched base on this a little bit earlier, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. You can take a snapshot of this, but look, the AI mode has changed everything, and it's not going away. It's not going away, period. This is really important. Take a snapshot of this, but I'm going to talk about this for a minute or so. We want to structure that of our content, not just for Google, not just for AI, but also for humans. So here's 4 examples of an effective format. Remember, I go back to what is the AI overview? The people also ask, what are questions that our end users on the vendor side, what are questions that our dealers and integrators ask us? What do they ask us? What are the FAQs that they ask us? Ask your sales team, jot those down. Let's start putting FAQs. Let's start writing blogs about that. Remember, for each of us, it is all about being known, liked, and trusted. We want to position ourselves as the liaison in what we do, locally or on a nationwide basis. You want to make sure that you're answering the question. You want to make sure we're putting a detailed explanation of that answer, and we have a nice call to action in terms of what happens. So like, for example, how much does an access control system cost? And look, some of you may be saying, well, wait a minute, Dave, where are you getting those numbers from? And don't hold me literally with things here, but it's like, you want to answer these questions. Because why? Because people have those questions, answer them. I'm telling you, for those of you that are paying attention to and that'll implement the things we're talking about today, when we get together at ESX or at GSX or later in the year at a conference, you're going to say, Dave, let me show you some of the results. And I do want to actually continue hearing about that. So let me keep moving forward here. So these are some examples of pages on our site that every security company needs to rank. Obviously, we need a homepage. That's a given. We need to make sure that we have specific pages for the major primary cities and the geographic areas that we serve. We want to have individual pages. Do not just have a page for all the things that we do for Resi and all the things that we do for commercial. We want to make sure we have individual pages broken out. Now, it's okay to have a summary page that has a snippet of all the things and they link to those pages. That's okay. but we want to make sure we have individual ones. We want to make sure that we have the about us. Not only do we talk about expertise, credentials, and story, but we really help to humanize ourselves, tell the story, share the good news. We want to make sure we have FAQs. Let's ultimately, and look, 20 may be, Rome was not built in one day. We don't have to start off with 20. Start with 2, 3, 4. Over time, build more. Remember, today is the day you plant the tree. The best time would have been 10, 15, 20 years ago. Today is the second best day. We want to make sure we have reviews or testimonials. We want to make sure that we're showing social proof. And then obviously like a contact, I mean, some of these are a given. But if we're missing any of these, we're missing that of opportunities. So here's the formula that dominates that of local searches for, like, let's say security systems in your city. We can have the opening that's like looking for reliable security, security company in your city. We protected in your city homes and businesses since. And then local proof, mention some of the neighborhoods, landmarks, local clients. We want to make sure we're listing that of the services. We want to have local contacts. We want to have reviews and a clear call to action. Remember, this is the formula for the service area pages and things in that regard. Now, what helps to convert visitors into customers is above the fold. We want to make sure that we have that proof in terms of the fact that we have got license numbers and we're certified. We're family owned since the number of years in business. We want to make sure your phone number. Please make sure I wrote an article, and I think we talked about this recently, but I wrote an article in Security Best Business Magazine recently talking about how big of size you want to have for that of your phone number. We want to make sure we have a free quote button. We want to make sure there's reviews with the 5 stars, and I emphasize 5 stars in that of the count. But throughout the site, we want to make sure we have real team and real installation photos and not just stock stuff. Ideally, not just text-based, but video testimonials. If we happen to, and this is, if we happen to be belonging to ESA or local chambers of commerce or NFPA or SEA, state alarm associations, et cetera, I want to make sure we're referencing those. These are all things that are establishing credibility and positioning us as like, especially for end users that don't know us, or on the vendor side for security companies that don't know us. These things will help to make a big, meaningful difference. So I'm not going to go here. Take a snapshot of this. You got to make sure the 3-second rule is really, really important. So if your website is not loading in 3 seconds or less, that's not a good thing. And I know I'm a little behind schedule. So take a snapshot of this, and you can all do this for your website within just a few minutes. So here, let's talk about our quick sprint. So here is our plan. If you want to take a quick snapshot of this, because I have just a couple more slides, and I know we're coming up on time. But these are things that you can fix over these next few days in terms of your Google business profile, requesting some reviews, making sure that we have FAQs with some of the top customer questions, making sure that we have even if we just get started off with our first service area page, and then make sure that we're fixing that of the NAP consistency on the 5 directories. This is something that can be done within just a couple of hours. Now, here's a little bit more in detail. And once again, I'm going to zip through these. So just feel free to take snapshots of this, but make sure that we're making sure that we are verifying that of our business hours, including that of the holidays, making sure that we have all the applicable service categories, description, make sure that we have all the services that are uploaded, things in that regard. So, and by the way, if you do this on a desktop versus your mobile, it's going to make things a little easier. Here's a quick, if you want to take a snapshot of this, I'm going to leave this up for 3, 2, 1. Here's a few questions. Take another snapshot. I'm not going to read through all 10 of these, but like, I would imagine I can see you if we were together in person and you're like, yep, I've been asked that question. Maybe not all 10 of these questions, but some of these are like basic fundamental questions, but keep all these things in mind. These are questions that you should be answering on your website. Now, if we stick with it, good things will happen. Remember, methodical and steady wins the race. Consistency is the key. There's 3 paths. Now, if you have time, you can do this yourself. If you want help, you can reach out to us and we can help, to provide you some guidance, and we can even do it for you. We can talk about that offline. So here is the SEO implementation toolkit. So I'm going to leave this up for just a couple of minutes here. If you want to scan this, this will allow you to download that of this, and you don't need to enter in your information to download this. So this is a multi-page doc, like a lot of pages. In fact, 39 pages. Perfect. All right. So Let me keep going forward here because I want to talk about our next webinar. In terms of our 5 key takeaways, the majority comes from Google Business Profile reviews and citations. We want to focus on high intent keywords. Want to make sure we're structuring content in Q&A. Why? Because of the AI results that are coming about. And we want to make sure that we're building towards 40 plus reviews and then consistently add them. Remember, consistency beats that of perfection. It's all about a system. Now, I know we're up against time, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. A couple of common questions. How long until I see results? And I mean, there's so many factors, and like this could be a 5-10 minute answer on this, but it depends on a number of factors. Like how much competition do you have? What's the difficulty for that of the keywords and things in that regard? I will say this: get started with a few of the low hanging fruit keywords, and it will help to position us and things in that regard. I'm going to just skip forward because I know we're up against time here. A big thank you to everyone. Uh, a big thank you once again to that of our sponsors at NAPCO and Recognize. Once again, those are their boosts. If you wouldn't mind taking a snapshot of this and thanking them for sponsoring that of our continued webinars, I'd appreciate that. Big thanks to NAPCO and Recognize. And in terms of announcing next month's webinar, when I tell you I'm pumped and I'm jazzed, I get to share the virtual stage with my good friend, the Dean Belisle from DMP. And we're going to be doing things a little differently. It's going to be a 2-part series, and we're going to be discussing the revenue engine. So we're going to be talking about how elite security companies can align sales and marketing for 10x growth. So we'll be talking about more strategy in part 1, and then part 2 is going to be discussing the actual systems and the implementation. So this is a 2-part series. I'd highly recommend for you to RSVP for this now so you don't forget and you make sure you get this on your calendar. Once again, we are at the top of the hour. I really, really appreciate, I think I made everyone except for 1 or 2 actually stuck around to the end. I really, really appreciate that. Everyone is so kind. I appreciate all of the notes that everyone said to everyone. And then most of you sent notes to me directly. Very, very kind. I think I made a mistake once and I said someone's name. So I tried my best to not screw that up. But thank you again to everyone that was on live, to those of you that are watching this on demand. Appreciate all of your feedback in advance. Look forward to seeing you all next week. And until next time, make it a great day.